हो गया लाइव। वांगू यहाँ पे एक ऑप्शन आ रहा है कॉपी स्ट्रीमिंग लिंक। हेलो
हाँ कॉपी
अनिश,
कर लेना, वहां से कॉपी कर ले।
अच्छा कर लूँ।
हम्म,
क्लिपबोर्ड अब तेरे को भेज रहा हूँ, रुक।
मेरे को मिल गया।
है
मेरे को मैंने होगी लाइव यार, लाइव ना।
अच्छा लाइव है, ठीक है, चुप हो जाऊँ। मैं म्यूट कर रहा हूँ, ठीक है। मैं 10:50 पे ज्वाइन करूंगा, ओके। चल बाय, तू भी बंद कर दे, ठीक है।
Hi guys.
Mr. Deputy Secretary General, are you here?
Yes, I'm here, Radha.
Yeah. So how many viewers do we have at this particular moment?
Right now, we are waiting for the chief guests and also for the executive board members to join.
Okay. Now, like how many there are the viewers in the on the YouTube itself? Can I know that count?
There are 26 watching.
Okay, perfect.
Greetings, everyone. We'll start in a while. We're waiting for
Perfect.
some more people to join, as well as the guest speakers. Kindly be patient. Thank you.
Secretariat is requested to kindly switch on the videos as
Yes, and also
we are just starting the opening ceremony of Spectrum Model Event 2.0. So kindly switch on your videos.
The host, can you please check once the YouTube link because it's glitching like it's going too slow according to the meeting.
All the executive board members are requested to kindly rename themselves to their post and the committee, respective committee.
The YouTube link is supposed to go a little slow so that others can catch up.
So, Secretary General, we are getting the executive board members. So, we have Mr. Utsav Kaushal here. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Welcome. We'll start in a while. We're waiting for the guest speakers to join.
Okay.
Tanesh, can you start? Tanesh, sir, can you start the speaker view on the YouTube live stream?
sorry, what?
Can you switch on the speaker view on the YouTube live stream?
You got it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Like just a small suggestion, like just wait for the executive board members, and after that we can make for the speaker view as soon as we get the Pauline ma'am entered in the meeting. So let's wait for the Pauline ma'am, and we'll make it to the speaker one. Oh, sorry, deputy secretary. Just make after the guest speaker and the chief guest arrive. do we have Charge FS in the meeting?
Yes, sir.
So Charge FS, can you just make the meeting link of the respective committee, like of the AIPPM, CHW, and HRC? Just keep it ready, and we'll drop it at around 11:30 in the WhatsApp groups. Till now, just make of one meeting link, HRC, CHW, and AIPPM. We'll drop that.
Excuse me, sir. Am I audible first of all?
Yes, sir. You're completely audible.
Yeah, so the link is made. Like the session is decided to be at 12. I know sometimes the delay happens. We will try level best that it don't happen. At 11:55 or 11:50, I will drop the link in all in 3 committees.
Like the thing is, just drop at 11:45, considering the fact
Okay,
that
no worries.
okay, yeah, just drop at 11:45. Okay, and just make sure that this is the respective committee group of the event. Okay.
Great.
And technical head, can you just drop a message in the WhatsApp group that we are starting with your opening ceremony at 11:10?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
all the-
so guys, we wait for a while as we are waiting for the guest speaker to join. Thank you for being patient.
And all the executive board members in the secretariat itself is required to kindly switch on the videos, as it looks the session more interactive and it looks more, yeah, you can say like professional itself. Yeah, thank you. USG Public Relations, like, do we have Pauline ma'am in the our guest speaker, the first guest speaker? Have she joined the meeting?
Not right now.
Yes, the first guest speaker is Pauline, ma'am.
Yeah. So
And,
has she joined the meeting? Like, can I know that?
No, I don't think so.
Just kindly
No,
switch
yeah.
on videos, like it would make the session more interactive. Just
Yeah, just give me a second, sir. Give me a
no
second.
worries.
Greetings, delegates. If Pauline ma'am doesn't join in a while, like in 4 to 5 minutes, we'll start and she'll give a speech later.
Perfect, sir.
So that's cool.
Ekam sir, kindly just check your WhatsApp chat. Like,
Deputy Secretary General, are you here? No, bro. Ekamjot sir, actually, anyone is continuously writing Binod in the live chats.
No, charge of us. Ignore that. Ignore that.
good morning, Himanshu sir. Like,
Thank you. Good morning to you.
is my voice audible to you?
Good morning. Good morning,
Welcome,
sir.
sir.
Welcome.
Welcome, sir, to the
Morning,
opening
sir.
ceremony
Welcome,
of
sir.
welcome to
Good
the
morning,
opening
sir.
ceremony of Spectrum Model Event 2.0. Basically, we will be starting in just 2 minutes. Actually, we were waiting for the chief guest and the guest speakers. So, like, we are waiting for two more participants to join, and we'll start within at 11:18. And it is requested to kindly switch on the camera. Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, sir, for that. USG Public Relations just kindly start at
Haragya,
11:18 or
Madam
19.
Pauline is in the waiting room right now.
Okay, ma'am Pauline is joining.
She's here.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. No
Greetings,
worries.
ma'am. Greetings, ma'am. Welcome to the opening ceremony of Spectrum MUN.
Yes, sir.
Good
Greetings, ma'am.
morning.
Welcome to the
A very good
opening
morning, Pauline,
ceremony
ma'am.
of Spectrum Model Event 2.0. We are proud to have you as a guest speaker at a conference. Thank you, ma'am, for joining.
Thank you very much. Would you like me to introduce myself and start?
Yeah, ma'am. Yes, we are
We're just starting the opening ceremony right now, ma'am.
we
Okay,
were waiting
thank
for
you.
the guest
Starting, ma'am.
speakers.
All right. Thanks, everyone. So, dear delegates, it's really a pleasure for me to be here today. My name is Pauline Eluer, and I work for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, which protects close to 80 million people who are displaced due to conflict, persecution, and violence worldwide, as well as about 10 million stateless people who don't have a nationality. So actually, just a few years ago, I was a delegate, just like you. I was doing Model United Nations, and that's what motivated me to work for the UN, actually. And it taught me a lot of things. So I think it's really fantastic that you're engaging in these conferences. And one thing it taught me is really to try to think outside the box and be creative. The first time I had to represent a country during a MUN, I had to represent Bhutan. So I think you know Bhutan. It's a small country in Asia that's landlocked, and we had to debate about protecting the ocean. But of course, Bhutan doesn't have access to the ocean, so no one was really interested in talking to me. So I had to be really creative, to convince the countries that I had a say on the issue and that Bhutan had rivers that connected to the ocean, and it was really, a big exercise of creativity and trying to get people to listen to you, and it taught me really a lot. And afterwards I decided to try working for the United Nations. I worked for the Red Cross, I worked for an NGO, and I joined UNHCR about 2 years ago. So it's possible. You can start as a delegate, and if you're really passionate about an issue, you can continue and try working for the UN. So what do I do today? I work in communications, which is really important because, as you know, it's not easy to talk about refugees. Many people have fears about refugees coming to their countries. And we have to, tell people about refugees, about their stories, that, they had to flee conflict, that it can happen to anyone, that it's happened to many countries throughout history, and that we have an international framework to protect refugees and to welcome refugees who need to cross a border to find protection. So when I arrived at UNHCR, we have so many big challenges and we need to find solutions to many things. Climate change is going to be a big challenge in the future. It's going to create more displacement. There are toxic narratives about refugees that we need to address. There are many issues. And so when I arrived, I told my colleagues, but we should be involving students, in all these debates. They're the future leaders in their countries, not just as politicians, but even as a businessman, you have a responsibility. You can decide to, hire refugees. As a private sector actor, you can, also help by, providing resources. As a teacher, you can, try to better integrate refugees. That there's so much that, you can do in the future to help. So it's really important to raise awareness and involve young people in finding solutions from an, early age. So I told them, what if we tried working with MUN students everywhere. Because the thing during the Mobile UN is that you work so hard, you study the issues so hard, you learn about the country that you're representing, and then you come together, you debate, and sometimes you come up with really interesting solutions. And you write them, and you create resolutions, and you vote. But then that's over, right? Then your conference is over, and you go back to your normal life. So I thought it would be a great idea to encourage students everywhere to debate about refugees, and to send us their resolutions so that we can look at them closely, see if there's anything interesting out there. And at the end of the year, we're going to award your best resolutions and share them with policymakers in a forum. So it's really your chance, to turn from the game to reality potentially. And for us, it's also fantastic to get fresh ideas from students everywhere, and get your take on how we can solve some of the big challenges of our time. So thank you so much for joining the MUN Refugee Challenge. In the world, we have 20,000 young people like you who are debating in 70 countries. So that's about 300 MUNs who are taking part. And every time we try to have a colleague participating or a young refugee participating to kind of brief you ahead of time. And I hope that it's been inspiring for you to study the issues. I hope that it's exciting for you, the idea that we're going to read your resolutions and try to do something with them. And I really encourage you to be really creative, to think outside the box. Like I had to do when I was representing Bhutan, even if you're not a big country, and you have to stick, of course, your country's position. Just try to, make proposals, that haven't necessarily been made before, and we'll be really, really curious to read them. So, dear delegates, I thank you so much for taking part in this. Also, congratulations on transitioning your conference online. I know that it hasn't been easy with COVID, and it's really a challenge. So I think it's amazing that you've managed to organize that today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, ma'am. It was a great speech from your side and great part from your side. And ma'am, a request, since many of us present here are not so much aware of how UNHCR actually works, so it would be great if you can clarify certain doubts and answer some questions from the Secretariat and from the EB members as well.
Of course.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I present the floor for the first question to Mr. Haradya Singh.
Thank you, Vimal Mishra, for giving me the opportunity. And I extend my, first of all, heartiest gratitude to Ms. Pauline, ma'am, for spending a valuable time with the Spectre Model UN 2.0. Ma'am, I just general basic query from you being is, ma'am, like considering you have been representing from Strategic Communication Department of UNHCR. So like if we focus on the more vulnerable regions like in Syria, Yemen, where the refugees are being more persecuted. So how UNHCR means in current scenario has been making a track to those refugees, tracking the refugees who have been deprived of getting the asylum seekers, or you can say the status of refugees who have been trapped under the, you can say, under the extremist groups, under the non-state actors, or they are being trafficked and the smuggled within the MENA region itself. So what is the comprehensive plan of action UNHCR has been following for a better communication between the refugees which have been deprived of that?
Yeah, sure. So when it comes to refugees, so let's take Syria as an example. The way it works is that, so you have refugees who are crossing a border, and usually we're going to be there at the border, ready to register them, receive the information, so we can officially register them as refugees, so they can be protected in the country, so they have rights, so they can access, all the protection framework. So, for example, refugees in Syria, several millions have crossed the border and they have found refuge in Lebanon or in Turkey, for example. So we have a really big presence in these countries. So we can help the states to take care of them because it's a really big influx of refugees. But of course, like you were saying, some of them, they don't have the opportunity necessarily to flee. So I guess it depends. There are several UN agencies. There's one that is specialized in human trafficking. So that is going to be more their responsibility than UNHCR.
Okay.
However, UNHCR doesn't only take care of refugees, so people who cross the border, but also of internally displaced people. So if you have Syrians who have lost their homes, but they haven't crossed the border, they have stayed inside and are looking for another place to stay, we are also going to protect them, deliver shelter, help them deliver kits and food and etc. So we are also like inside of Syria, as much as possible trying to get humanitarian access. But of course, it's not always possible if it's too dangerous, or sometimes we are going to be prevented by armed groups from accessing some areas. So yeah, there are points at which we won't necessarily be able to reach certain groups. But then you have different UN agencies who are really specialized in trying to tackle human trafficking or deal with specific issues.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. It is okay, sorted. Thank you, ma'am. So, Vimal Mishra, you may go ahead with further proceedings.
Thank you, Radhya sir, and thank you, ma'am. Now I present the floor to Mr. Rahul Menon sir to ask the next question.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me. I would come to my speech later. Good morning, Pauline. I hope you're doing well and everything is good back there. So I've been associated with the academic setup for the past good 15 years now, training students with regards to UN being my main forte. So I have a sincere concern, which I have been asking the HCR representatives since I've been in class 10th when I represented myself first in Geneva. And then I came back and I never got an answer. So I'm asking the question again. There is a concept by the name of HUMINT, H-U-M-I-N-T, which is called human intelligence. Now the refugees are being, segregated on the grounds of human intelligence. The ones who can give intelligence of the ground level, and they're given asylum and refuge on a more easier basis. And the rest of the people who are not able to give refugee and asylum or information, they are segregated on a later basis. The 16-day pattern is seen on the aid package, which is governed under the United Nations government governance on communication, which Mr. Tharoor was also a part of as the USG head during his time, and the United Nations Governmental Operational Support Division, which is taking place from 93 nations at this point in time. Now, my understanding here fails is if there are 93 countries responding to operational communication support, why are the refugees being given an option that if you can give us ground level information, your permission or the slip which you receive as a refugee or an asylum seeker, the process becomes more convenient, and the people are not able to give that information, the process becomes inconvenient. To back up my question here, the last point is, this has been shown in documentaries as well, where the CIA, FBI have been seen, the questioning and the interrogation goes to that domestic level. So I believe that HCR is one of the most important setups under the Human Rights Council working with regards to the General Assembly so as to respond to them. So, ma'am, do you feel that this is a limitation to you by the other, individually stronger domestic setups, that you should give us refugees who can give us information so that we can give them more privileges? Is that what the reality is at the ground level? Because I've not worked with the HCR, and I would want to know, in case if I could get an answer, which could be a non-political answer, and I understand it's quite a sensitive question. So it's your call if you would want to answer it in a more elaborate manner or in a more specified manner. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rahul. So that's a really interesting question. To be honest, it's not that I don't want to answer, but I'm not so familiar with the issues that you're referring to. So if you want to drop me an email, and I will be happy to redirect you to my protection colleagues or human rights colleagues who may be able to provide you a more interesting answer than I have. I will be happy to, because I just don't have the right background or experience to answer that specific question, because it seems that you have really studied it hard. But drop me an email. I'll make sure to.
I will 100%. If you could just drop in your email on the chat box, Pauline, I would drop this email, and also would want to initiate a learning program with the HCR, which I did a few years back as well, but I would want to run it through you as well. I feel after hearing your speech, I feel that at the ground level, I'm no 40-year-old individual. I myself am 27. So I've been trying to do what I can do at my level, but then you can understand the parameters through which we have to go. So you can just put, oh, I got your email. Brilliant. Thank you, ma'am. I will make sure.
And if you have any ideas like Rahul of projects or things you're doing on the ground for refugees or ideas, feel free to share it, because we're really trying now to develop a youth engagement strategy where we can,
Done. We have a youth assessment program, Pauline, which I've been running for the past 5 years. We help them, assess them, treat them, train them. and that is called Implementers. I will share that with you, and we'll get in touch. Thank you so much, Pauline. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like Mr. Tanmay Durrani to ask his question.
Hello. Hi, Pauline, ma'am. It's great to have you. All right. So, ma'am, am I audible?
Yeah.
Perfectly audible. Right. So, ma'am, my basic question is that we know about the climate issues which are prevalent these days, and due to which there is a huge influx of some new term climate refugees, though this term does not exist under international consensus, considering that it does not fit under the definition of 1951 convention. But then, ma'am, in accordance to my knowledge, what I know about it, that UNHCR is working on an extended mandate to rehabilitate those refugees and IDPs, even though these climate refugees, right? Though they are not supposed to. But then, does UNHCR plan to make a comprehensive international framework for the protection of climate or environmental migrants, considering that at a global international level it does not exist. It only exists at a regional level, for example, Kampala Convention and New York Declaration, something like that. So that is my basic question.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't know if you have chosen climate displacement as one of your topics for this conference, but that's a really, really interesting issue. Like you were saying, there's going to be more climate displacement in the future, but actually at this stage, especially internal displacement, not necessarily people crossing borders, but a lot of internal displacement. I think it's estimated that there's going to be 143 million in the coming years. So that's going to be a real challenge. Like you were saying, the term climate refugee is not embedded in international law. But there are protection frameworks. It's not like that there isn't anything, and it's really growing because that's really a hot issue. So countries are talking more and more about it. So I think that's going to be interesting in the future. And there's nothing there's no common ground yet on whether there should be, an international term, because what's really important is that if you start having legal status on climate refugees, what does it mean? Who's going to be in charge of the protection of potentially new millions of people? How are they going to be identified? Because currently the definition of refugees is very specific. It's people who have fled conflict, persecution, and violence. It doesn't mention climate. So what we have seen at the moment is we have refugees who are fleeing, sometimes due to reasons related to climate change, like desertification, they have lost their lands, or maybe inundations, rain, but they flee for that, but it's a mix of that and also violence. So it hasn't necessarily been a problem because oftentimes it's a mix of factors. So they can still have the refugee status when they cross the border because it's rarely only for climate change reasons. So that's one thing. And so that's going to be one of the things that you're going to have to debate, I think. I think that's also up to you because that's a question that's currently being debated, right? Some people think that it wouldn't be a good idea to have a new term of climate refugee because that's, who's going to be really in charge? Is it going to maybe undermine the current definition of refugees, right? Because if you start encompassing maybe too many people under the term refugees, is it going to be detrimental to people who flee war and persecution, right? So that's something you have to think about, and that's why it's not really clear-cut, right? That's why it's not really an easy debate, and you also have to think about which organizations will be in charge of the protection if there was a new type of status. So it's a bit of a long answer, but that's because it's currently being debated and thought about, and it's not that simple to say, oh yeah, we should have a new term. At the moment, UNHCR doesn't recognize the term climate refugee. It's being used mainly by the media, but it's not a legal reality. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Now I'd like to present the floor to the founder and Secretary General, Mr. Ekamjot Singh, to ask his question.
Greetings, ma'am. My question will be nothing political. I read your bio and you talked about the importance of empathy for solving the refugee crisis. Ma'am, so can you just highlight that how can the students sitting over here develop that trait? and how empathy is important over there, so that we can get an insight into that.
Yeah, it's a really, really great question. So definitely one of our big objectives at UNHCR is to try to generate empathy for refugees. And to do that, it's really important to understand the culture of different countries, because the reason why you empathize with other people can be different from one country to another. So we have realized that, for example, especially in Europe, about 30% of people are anyway in favor of refugees. They're like, we should be welcoming. It's human rights. It's important. Then you have 20% of people, they just don't want to hear about refugees, and it's going to be very hard to convince them. They think it's a threat to a number of values, and these people, they're too hard to convince. And in the middle, you have about 40 to 60% of people who are kind of in between, right? So if you tell them about a story of refugees who have fled their countries, they will feel compassion and the need to help them. But on the other hand, they're going to be worried. They're going to say, but what does it mean for the economy? What does it mean for my culture? What does it mean for my safety? And the issue is that these people, oftentimes, they tend to be also, listening to the discourse of politicians who play with these fears. So it's really important that organizations like UNHCR or other organizations try to address these fears, and that we don't mock them, but that we really try to address them, understand them, and use the right arguments to show people that refugees are not a threat, but they're just people who had to flee for horrible reasons, have been through horrible things. And most of these people, they go to another country to find safety, but actually you will be surprised, the huge majority of refugees, they want to come back. And that's why actually a majority of refugees, and that's why we often tell people, they're not very far away from their country of origin. Because some people think, all the refugees, they want to go to the United States, to Canada, to rich countries, to Europe. But actually, 85% of refugees are in developing nations, so not very rich nations. And 75% of refugees are just in the country next door. They haven't been really far, right? Because they're just looking for safety. They go to Lebanon, for example, when they're Syria. They were in South Sudan, they go to Sudan. So if you look at maps of where refugees are, they're always like right around the country where there is war. And usually it's not necessarily the countries that have the best capacity to welcome them. So that's really something that's important that we try to emphasize, is that refugees, they want to go back home, and they're people just like us. And if that happened to you, where would you go? And that we have this, I think, common responsibility to welcome refugees. Even if it's temporarily. I mean, some situations, are very complex. War has been going on for years. So sometimes UNHCR really advocates for integration, but also that we should never forget that, refugees are, people just like us, and that we also make a distinction between refugees and migrants. UNHCR is only in charge of refugees. We're not in charge of migrants who are traveling for economic reasons. This is not in our mandate. So our big priority is just to show people that these people have fled the most horrible things you can imagine, that it's our duty under international law and as human beings to welcome them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Vimal sir, you are at mute. Kindly unmute yourself.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Again, apologies. So good morning to honorable chief guest speakers, executive board members, secretariat members, and present delegates. My name is Vimal Mishra, and I will be serving as the host under USG Public Relations of Spectrum Model UN Conference. Since Spectrum 1.0 was indeed a great success, and now the team Spectrum is back with a bang, and we have stepped up the game in every way possible. We doubled the committees, doubled the delegates, and doubled the prizes. Also, another feather was added in the achievements hat in the Spectrum family when Spectrum Model UN got UNIC recognized. Now, I would like to call upon the founder and Secretary General of the Spectrum Model UN 2.0, Mr. Ekamjot Singh, who, after making the first edition successful, he has been working hard day and night for the second edition. With an experience of 25 plus MUNs, he manages to leave a mark on everyone he meets across. Over to you, sir.
Greetings, everyone. First of all, I would like to welcome the guest speakers, the chief guests, the secretariat members, the executive boards, and the delegates. We are standing over here because of your support and the love you have shown us since the past 2 months. Spectrum without you wouldn't have been possible. Spectrum is not about what you achieve in the end. It is about the journey you had, and it is about what you learned in the process. And I would like to thank Pauline ma'am for giving such an amazing speech and enlightening about the plight of refugees across the world. Thank you, ma'am, for being a part of the opening ceremony. And again, I would also like to thank Mr. Himanshu Vyas and Mr. Rahul Menon, who are also our guest speakers. Now, moving on, I would like to thank the secretariat members who started their work at 8 in the morning and ended it in the midnight. That's really, really commendable. Spectrum wouldn't have been possible without their contribution. And I won't introduce you to the whole secretariat, as Mr. Haragya will do that. He is serving as the chief advisor for this conference, and he's also the founder as well. Haragya is a very, very great personality in the circuit. Everyone knows who Haragya is, right? In the first edition, he served as Secretary General. I can call him one of the most cooperative persons I've ever met. He's more like a brother to me than a colleague. So now moving on. Spectrum has been a roller coaster ride. We have had our highs and lows as a team, but we got through them. And remember one thing, guys, we have just reached the halfway point of the summit. The peak is yet to come, and the delegates will take us over there. Happy evening, delegates, and I would like to wish you a very all the best. Vimal, on to you.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would like to introduce you all with a second guest speaker, Mr. Rahul Menon. Mr. Rahul Menon is a visionary. He pursued political science and international relations and finessed his skills into professional banking and has worked with major bankers both in India and abroad. He has been into advising, training, module creations, and mentoring numerous students across all fields from a very young age. I present the floor to you, sir.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, thank you for that humble introduction. It makes me feel like I'm a 50-year-old now. I've been doing so much, but it's not like that. I started very early. Yes, I started early because I would be very simply putting it across. Everybody says that it's important that we participate. It's important that we are there. I say it's all an eyewash. Winning is very important. Getting recognized is very important. But the most important thing beyond winning and beyond getting recognized is participating to trying better to win in a better manner. So trying is more important. You got to keep knocking on that door. You can't just keep, what is participating? You go and participate for knocking on the door, you stand in front of the door. The door will not open on its own. You will have to keep knocking at it. You might have to break it down. You have to go through it. Your content can be anything. Your content can be the most brilliant content on planet Earth. But your intent matters. With what intent do you move ahead? There are about good 18, 19, 20 people sitting here, and there'll be a good plethora of people coming to the conference. How did they come there? Because there are certain people sitting here who intended for them to be here. That's it. It's not how beautifully the Spectrum's logo is out there in the Instagram market. It is not how well they're marketing themselves. It's not how the YouTube is looking. It's not nothing. It's how Spectrum, which looks very spectacular in front, is fantabulously working behind it. That's how the conferences are made. Now, moving ahead and understanding why I've been called here. I've been called here because I do something which I know by a fact that is not happening in the Asian market, which is model creation for academic understanding of geopolitics and international relations, how things work. Books say something else, officials, they will say something else, but what happens in the ground reality is a whole different world. What happens in the ground reality is a whole different world. I've been there, I've been a part of it, and I know how it works. The other idea which we also need to understand is that when you take up activities like these, make sure that you prepare not to win. You will not win. Preparation for winning nahi hoti hai. It's never there. It's always preparation to be at your best. How can you be at your best? When you compare your worst. So it's very wonderfully said that why do we fall down? We fall down because we have to get up. Again, great eyewash. We fall down to realize that we were running wrong, walking wrong, or standing wrong. Rectify the running, walking, and standing, and then you get up. That is called the entire concept of getting up. There's no filmy coincidence here. Conferences are joined by delegates and they put a lot of thoughts into it, and they talk about the fact that we want to win. So there are 3 things that you take from a conference. Only 3 things. One is the awards, that's a memento. Second is a cash prize. Now the great part about these 3 deliverables is 2 of them are very perishable. The memento will either break away or it will rust away. The cash prize will be finished in 7 days because nobody is writing you a 5 crore rupees check. And the third thing is your knowledge. The great thing about knowledge is that it multiplies if you apply it better. And that's the only thing that you should have in your head. And for the winners who feel that we won best delegate, we've won awards, so we'll do great in life. You will do great in life any which way. Awards have been abbreviated by me in one of my quotations in a book which I'm writing. It's AWARDS. It is a way of analyzing your recent developments. That's it. Today you're a winner. The UN is not going to call you tomorrow. Hi, best delegate HRC. Please join us tomorrow. We need you. It's not going to happen. You have to crack the civil services in India. Join the IFS. Last year it was only 27 people who got selected in the IFS position. 27. So you have to be amongst those elite class. Of not scoring well, of thinking well, of analyzing well, tactically being out there. So I'm going to keep it very short and simple. Thank you so much to the founder, chief advisor. Thank you so much to the secretary general and every single one who's present at this point in time who thought I'm good enough to be at this platform. When I got this invite from Spectrum, initially I thought that, usually conferences are approaching me for guest speaking and all, but I thought they'll be approaching me that, do you want to chair a committee? Where I had to say a no, that I cannot because there's a conference parallelly going on right now, which I have to be at. But then thankfully they said, would you want to come and share some thoughts? So I'm going to put this in Hindi now. This is in case Pauline is here, apologies for the same, but ये हिंदी में ही जाएगा, that आपका काम है काम करना और चिंता करना कि फल क्या आएगा, क्योंकि चिंता नहीं करोगे तो प्रेशर नहीं बनेगा काम करने में, तो करो फल की चिंता, it's very important, but then don't get stressed, because getting stressed and getting worried are 2 different things. Worried makes you nervous, stressed makes you crazy. So crazy nahi hona hai. Worry karo, nervous raho, stay on your toes, let the hand shake till the work is not done, and when the work is done, shake your hand strong, telling the people the work has been done. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on board. Thank you so much for hearing me out. I will be leaving my Instagram ID and my contact detail in the chat box in case anybody wants to get in touch with me regarding any issues and any concerns regarding training or whatever it is. You guys can do that. Thank you so much to every single one. In case I don't know your names, it's a sin because I've not interacted with you guys so much, but I see your faces and I see them bright and positive. So thank you so much. And to all the dignitaries as well, thank you so much for taking out your time. It's a great initiative, and go strong, do well, and try to make me a longer and larger part of Spectrum in your next edition so that I can also bring in some expertise which I have, which can take it to places as well. Thank you so much, guys. Have a very good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for delivering such inspiring words. I would now like to invite the founder and chief advisor of the Spectrum Model UN, Mr. Haragya Singh, who is currently a 12th grader from Chandigarh. He has been involved in the Indian circuit from past 3 years. Beholding the experience of 20 plus MUNs, he truly believes in the ideal concept of model UN conferences. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Vimal Mishra, for such a nice introduction. So without wasting much of your time, very good morning to Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Himanshu Vyas, sir, our guest speaker, Ms. Pauline Iliur, and Mr. Rahul Menon, sir, and all the present executive board members, delegates, and the secretariat too. First of all, on a very formal note, I, on behalf of Team Spectrum, would like to extend my heartiest gratitude to Ms. Pauline Iliur, a representative from UNHCR, who represents UNHCR Strategic Communication Department, for spending your valuable time with Team Spectrum. Thank you, ma'am, for addressing your precious words in the Spectrum Model UN conference. So now, I would like to share something interesting with you guys during my speech. So after the first edition was over, I had a certain sort of feeling that something was missing. Now, it was those few people who were associated with Spectrum, and I thought that Spectrum was missing. So after this heavenly realization, even though I had very busy schedule, but Spectrum being really close to my heart, I spared some time and put those 7 people on a call. Disclaimer, that was not a for 2.0. We started having a conversation, a very random conversation. I don't know, from nowhere, our very own Secretary General, Mr. Ekamjot Singh, came up with a plan of this Spectrum Model UN 2.0. Now that was sort of unexpected, but we were like, okay, we'll think about it. And then I kept the phone. I don't know. After that, I wasn't able to concentrate on any sort of thing. And I was like, okay, we'll definitely have it. So hardly had a 3 hours pass of that call. I again put those 7 people on a con call. And this time it was for 2.2. And this is from where everything started. Now the plan was very crisp and clear. A grander, a bigger, a more magnificent edition of Spectrum Model UN. And see, we are here back again with double the fun, double the hard work, double the number of committees, and double the number of people associated with Spectrum Model UN. Right now, when I'm sitting in one of my rooms at my home, I see 100 more people whom I am associated with this tiny device. I'll tell you what counts for me is the more what count is that there are so many people whom I have not really met, but I am so bonded with them right now, and most of them are from my own very secretariat. Now, without wasting much of our time, let me introduce the very own family, which is known as Spectrum. I mean, family, the Secretariat of Spectrum Model UN. I'll take much of your time but our Honorable Secretary General has given this assigned this task to me, so I'll do this definitely. So, firstly, starting with the introduction of our head of campus and Badger, Mr. Nihal Singhal. So for him, I'll just say only one word. That is the most authoritative person I have ever seen in this conference. Really, I can challenge you. I can challenge you each and every member sitting that the job of getting, you can say, an interactive session with the campus ambassador, and he served as the best post of being the head of campus ambassador. So now moving upon to our USG head of marketing, Ms. Bhavya Chandu. She is the most persuasive one, and I don't think anyone can be as influential to the delegates as she is. Like, she's the most influential among the delegates. So now coming over to our USG technology head of tech, sorry, apologies. Coming upon to our USG head of technology, Mr. Ishan Jindal, the most loyal person ever I have met in my life. I don't think I get a combo of both technical and a loyal person in the secretariat, but this boy has fulfilled the criteria completely. Now coming upon to the USG registration, Mr. Kanish Jam, the most dedicated one. I mean, this boy, without getting irritated, with all around 148 registrations, he did his work with the most interest. Kudos to this guy. So now moving upon to the most, I'll say my favorite person in this whole secretary. You all a favorite, but this person who is the, you can say, who inspired me to having this Spectrum 2.5 at this particular moment is Mr. Kavish Mittal. He's the most laborious one, literally, from matrix to link trees to call-ups to the Google Forms. And literally, he did everything without complaining. And now coming to my most sweetest person I have ever met, whom I have met virtually. Literally, I met him virtually, and his name is, and he's USG Head of Public Relations, Mr. Vimal Mishra. He's a super chilled out person. And I mean, the whole secretariat was very close to me and to each and everyone, but still we had many fights that goes on. That is normal, because in a family, fights are there. But this guy did not lose his calm even once. Rather, he resolved the ongoing conflicts. Like, he worked as a human body between the spectrum itself. So I mean, a seriously special kudos to this guy. Like, and now without wasting time, I come to a Deb Digen, Miss Arpita Tejpal. According to me, like, I have seen the most intellectual one. So, okay, on this note, I'll ask each and everyone present here. So if you want any sort of intellectual advice, just don't forget to contact Ms. Arpita Tejpal. Okay. Now, on a very silent note, this might not offend, but I don't want to offend. It's on a very informal and a silent note. I'll come on to our Director General, Ms. Arushi Alreja. She's a silent killer. I mean, she killed every task assigned to her with her utmost grace and responsibility. Okay, so now addressing our Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Tanish Wangu. He's the most logical and the sensible. I mean, I can challenge absolutely anyone in the whole secretariat, in the whole immune circuit, but you cannot find a person more logical, more reasoning, and you can say more sensible person than me. So now coming upon to an advisor of Spectrum Model UN, Ms. Apurva Singh. So I can say her, you can say a grammar freak, or you can say grammar Nazi, and the defendant of the Spectrum Model UN. I mean, I can bet you'll be stunned if you see how strongly she defends. She defends when it comes to secretariat, she defends in a very good manner. And when it comes to her so-called all India political party meets, she's the best politician I've ever seen in the all India political party. So coming upon our senior advisor, Mr. Shikhar Tripathi, I can just say for only two words for him: the most mature and the most cooperative. Mature when it comes to taking decisions, and cooperative when it comes to pulling the pranks on the secretariat members. So now the prank story of Spectrum is something which is most memorable and most it's lengthy, but I would be telling you in the closing segment itself. So till that, have some patience. So now presenting you to the Secretary General of Spectrum Model UN 2.0, Mr. Ekam Jyot Singh, the MUNer in the real life. I mean, this person never loses the flow of being in MUN conference. Be it a random talk, be it a secretary talk, be it you can say a formal and informal talk, he always remain in a zone of being an MUNer. Trust me, this guy has got a heart of gold and personality which is tough to beat. And I do not regret, I never regret, and I have made a firm decision of keeping him the Secretary General for the 2.0, and he's the serving more than me, like how I served in 1.0. I can really assure you guys, I have seen all the leadership qualities, all the oratorship qualities, you can find it with him within you can say, a single person, who is Mr. Ekam Jyot Singh. So now I have introduced you all the secretary members, and thank you for all listening to my pretty much long speech. And I wish all the best to all delegates who are listening to me via this YouTube platform and the Zoom. So guys, I'll just tell you one thing: give your 100%, go kill it, rock the debate, rock the floor, go give your 100%. And with this note, I present the floor to Mr. Vimal Mishra to continue further proceedings. And so sorry for taking much of your time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mr. Founder and Chief Advisor, sir, for such beautiful words. Now I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome the Deputy Secretary General of Spectrum Model UN 2.0, Mr. Tanish Wangu, who has excellent debating, writing, and most importantly, listening skills, which helps him get things done and solve complex situations arising in the management. This, coupled with his successful experiences in both national and international conferences, proves him to be a clear asset for Team Spectrum. I present the floor to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Vimal. So first of all, greetings to everyone present here today. Madam Pauline, joining us all the way from Switzerland. Honorable Secretary, Mr. Himanshu Vyas of the Indian Overseas Congress. Executive board members and fellow delegates joining us on YouTube Live. And of course, my dear Secretariat. I still have a vivid memory of those long online conversations, endless Zoom meetings filled with empty Red Bulls and constantly setting up a microphone in the correct way. And in hindsight, it feels amazing to even think about how such a diverse group of people having completely different preferences, opinions, and personalities were able to unite for the common cause of spreading the gospel of debate and cooperation, and also for our endearing love for Model UN. This also corresponds with what Madam Pauline highlighted regarding the plight of refugees. The people that we perceive as different and label them with all kinds of slurs just because of our uncommon heritage are in no way inferior than us and never will be. The essence of international cooperation, diplomacy, and principles of the United Nations is all about celebrating our underlying commonality in spite of our external differences, and cherishing this pale blue dot we live on in complete peace and solidarity. The Spectrum MU represents such a consortium of a new generation of delegates, a generation of solvers, one that is committed to make a difference no matter where they're from, who they are, or who they love. And it's safe to assume that the world is in good hands. So first of all, and lastly, I would like to once again extend my thanks to dignitaries for making this conference possible, and best of wishes to delegates and the executive board members for their conference. May the force be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, I feel immense privilege to introduce our chief guest to all of you, Mr. Himanshu Vyas. He is currently the Secretary of All India Congress Committee and in charge of Indian Overseas Congress. He has been elected as two-time members of the Parliament. And also, Congress President Mr. Rahul Gandhi, sir, has appointed him as AICC Secretary and assigned to the Indian Overseas Congress, AICC General Secretary. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Haragya Singh, founder and chief of Spectrum MUN, to invite me as a chief guest. and gave me the opportunity to talk to the young generation of India and the world. I also heard Miss Pauline from United Nations and Rahul also. I'm very happy to see Mr. Singh, you are a wonderful team. You have an excellent MUN team and they are all efficient. I can see when they are talking, I can see them, they are enthusiastic also. Today, I'm going to mainly talk about my journey as a youth leader, because I started my career as a youth leader at the age of 18 when I was elected in the college as a debating secretary. From there, I started my journey. Then I became the state unit of student wing of Congress party in Gujarat. And later, Rajiv Gandhi made me, in fact, president of the state unit of NSUI. And then I became the General Secretary of All India Youth Congress in my young days in 97. Basically, our country is the youngest country in the world. 25 to 35 age group, we have highest in the world. This is the most important age of life for all human beings. Childhood mainly taken care by parents, but this is the age we need to handle ourselves and need to pave the way of future life. We see dream of our future life. We see the dream of our career. We see the dream of our love life too, because we are young. By seeing all dreams, we need to see the future of our country also. How I can be an architect of my country. How we can make our countrymen happy and prosperous through our contribution. Our former Prime Minister, late Rajiv Gandhi, whose birthday just went day before yesterday, was always saying, India is an old country, but a young nation. And like the young everywhere, we are impatient. I am young and I too have a dream. I have a dream of India strong, independent and self-reliant. And in the forefront, on the front line of the nation, of the world for the service of the mankind. I am committed to realizing that dream through dedication, hard work, collective determination of our dream. This is the thing what we Indian always have to think about it. Most probably young generation have to have concentration, hard work, commitment and self-reliant. Today, we can't forget our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi also, because he is relevant today. He was always saying that I do not want my house to be walled in all sides. A refugee issue comes in this also. I do not want my house to be walled in all sides and my windows to be stuffed. I want the culture of all lands to be blown out of my house as freely as possibly. But I refuse to be blown off my feet by any. The youth should be open to receive and perceive knowledge from all around the world, but shall not forget our own culture and identity as an Indian. After COVID-19, our communication system has changed. More we are using technologies. Those who were opposing the technology are using these days. Education system has drastically changed now. Now big campuses are becoming obsolete and online education is taking place. 21st century universities won't be in a four walls. We as a youth must understand that nature's protection will keep us alive. So we must protect the environment. Very important thing that we should be having multidisciplinary education in life these days. a doctor have to be a musician and a CA has to be a poet, because you are going to live a long life. You require multi-skill. Another thing today, what Miss Pauline said is regarding UN. I must tell you that this is the time to redesign the world, because after Second World War, USA established all United Nations, World Bank, WHO, WPO, so many things. But today all countries don't believe in that. Even United Nations, even United States President opposing WHO. After that, Cold War came between Russia and America. Then Gorbachev era came and USSR broken. Then America became superpower, only one. Then 9/11 came. So world is becoming now different what was established during that time. So it is a high time, and then COVID came. We can see how vulnerable situation all around the world. All the nations are crippled on the system of health. We were very impressed by the US health system, but today we can see what happened. So things are completely different after COVID-19, and world is completely changing. So according to me, this is the time for youth to think of how next world will be, what will be the time, how we have to work for world, how we have to protect the environment. It is the most important thing, because COVID-19 has taught us that if you don't save environment, everybody will be suffering. Last, I am again thanking Haragya Singh and all his team for inviting me here as a chief guest. And I'm very delighted to talk to young people, because I started my career as a youth activist, and I want our youth to take the lead in the world. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, sir, for such inspiring words. I now welcome our USG Head of Registrations, Mr. Kanish Jham, who is a very daring and hardworking person with an experience of 11 MUNs. He has developed a great interest in MUNs. I present the floor to you, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yes, Kanish, you are audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, Kanish, you are audible.
Yeah, thank you for the introduction. So now basically we all are here. We have our whole of the team is the secretariat is, and we all are to the edge of starting our conference, and all of you are going to be the committee. And for the last time I here bring you best luck. And basically just a thing that I say to all of you, learning also matters, awards also matters. Thing only is that we should go with your creative, be your best. And I think that if you are at your best, you will surely get an award. So that's the thing, like you should never demotivate yourself. So everyone of you should, I'm also serving as head registration in Spectrum Union. I also have had a lot of fun with the secretariat members. We are whole of the secretariat such cooperative that no one can feel something low or think that I am not in the secretariat. So every one of you all work as a team. Our whole team, I would like to appreciate our whole and our both founders who kept our whole of them together. So that they are the major reason why we have a Spectrum 2.0. We got such achievements and we got so it is, and I think we are here only because of you people also, because if you people were, then we might not be able to have this conference. So thank you everyone, and again wishing you all best of luck for your committee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now invite a USG Head of Technology, Mr. Ishan Jindal, who is a class 10 student and also a hardworking person and takes part in MUNs enthusiastically. During the time of lockdown, he started doing MUN for a change, which then became his hobby. Over to you, sir.
A very good afternoon to all the members and delegates present here in this mega event, and Ishan Jindal, the UHA Head of Technology, Spectrum Online MUN 2.0. As Himanshu Vyas sir that explained that the technology technology is dealing with the science. As you can see,
sir, you're facing network issues.
Corona period. I would like to guide.
Ishan Jindal, can you just check your headphone mic?
Check your connectivity issues, sir.
That's to some point that you need to switch on your cameras during your committee. Hello. Am I audible, sir?
Technology.
I would like to get the rest to some point. Firstly, I have to keep you all have to keep. Yes, sir.
Just do one thing, unmute yourself and then mute yourself. Mute and then unmute. You are facing some technical issues. You can just check your voice is a bit lagging. Just check your headphones and all, so that for the audibility issues. Kindly do that.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now it's a bit clear. Go ahead, sir.
At the bells to us during your committee so that I'm audible, sir. You all have to keep. Yes, sir. I'm audible now. Down so that we can have e-photography, and then we will be making a movie after this MUN is over. We have to sit in a well isolated area so that to avoid all the network issues, you may have good connectivity, and then maintain some decorum in the meeting. If any issues, if any problem you may get technicality issues, you may call or text me in the meeting or after the meeting. I am available 24/7 for all the delegates, and not taking much of your time. Thank you, Vimal sir, for acknowledging me. You may continue. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Now, I would like to invite the founder and Secretary General of Spectrum Model UN 2.0, Mr. Ekamjot Singh, to declare the conference open.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to tell the three guests who spoke. They gave amazing speeches. Miss Pauline, Mr. Himanshu, and Mr. Rahul Menon. Part of our opening ceremony and making it even more better. I would like to acknowledge the contribution of executive board members. They have written such amazing background guides. Seriously, I haven't read such amazing pages in my life. So I would like to thank all the EBs of all the 4 committees for working so hard for the delegates. Now, we should also focus on the fact that winning award isn't that important, right? I do want to win an award in MUN. Everyone knows over here that I want to be the first person moving out of the committee with an award. But still, if you don't win it, don't get worried. Learn from your mistakes. Come back stronger and come back better. You'll surely win the award next time. And try, but don't cry. So at this note, I would like to wish the delegates a very all the best, a very happy MUNing, and very happy researching. So I, Ekamjot Singh, founder and secretary general of Spectrum MUN Society, declares the conference open.
Thank you so much, sir. Also, yeah, thank you. Also, I would like to request the delegates that the committee link will be sent in your respective groups by now by the Charge of Affairs, maybe Mr. Kavish Mittal. So just go and check your groups and you can join the committees as soon as possible. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Happy debating. Thank you.
Adding to that, yeah, Kavish, this is regarding to delegates. So Mr. Kavish Mittal is sending the link, that is the common link to the HRC delegates, UNCHW delegates, and the AIPPM delegates. For UNGA, the timings are 3:30. So all the delegates are requested to kindly join the meeting ASAP, as we are 15 minutes late. Apologies for that from the secretariat itself, considering technicalities issues. So the link has been dropped in your respective groups. So delegates of UNHRC, AIPPM, and UNCHW and the executive boards are also requested to kindly join the meeting, and we are just starting the meeting. Thank you everyone for your presence.
Delegates, all the best, all the best. Debate, discuss, deliberate, show your diplomacy, and show them that you are the best, and show that you can give your 100% in an event, because that is only what matters.
Thank you for being a part of the Spectrum MU Society.
Yeah. Thank you.
So can I leave because the link is separate and I
Yeah,
need to start
Charging
the meeting?
Faisal,
Can I leave?
start the meeting. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
thank you
I
guys
am.
for your presence. So the closing ceremony now is, the opening ceremony is officially closed. So now we are into the formal, we are just moving into the committee wise session. Then now as Secretary General declare the conference open. So guys, thank you, and we'll meet you in the respective committees. Thank you guys, and let's move to the committees and executive board. See you there. Thank you. So Mr.
All the
Deputy,
best, guys. All the best.
Thank you everyone for joining us. I'm just
shall we
ending
end
the
this
meeting
meeting?
now.
Okay, perfect. End that, Mr. Deputy.